When he says he wants a divorce, little does he know that there are some deeper issues at play within him that are causing him to act the way that he is currently. However, there are also some specific strategies that you can work through right now in order to be able to get him to change his mind and really start to understand what's actually going on within him. Now, before I discuss some of these strategies, I want to explain to you a little bit about male psychology and how men get to a place where they want a divorce. Firstly, for a lot of men, control is a real issue in marriages. Now, when we talk about control, what we're talking about is everyday micro behaviors that then stack on top of each other over a period of time. Things like, hey, did you put the trash out? Hey, can you just make sure next time that you actually stack the dishwasher in a particular way? Hey, why did you actually spend that money on that particular item? We don't need it. We don't need to spend that money on those things. Even the raising of tonality in certain situations can be perceived as a form of control. So here and there it's not too bad, but if it's consistent and it happens over a period of time, it can start to create doubts and confusion and frustration within him. Secondly, not feeling a sense of respect, not feeling a sense of significance within the marriage, and not feeling that sense of being a king almost to his wife. When men don't feel that sense of significance within the marriage, then over time, they're going to look to find that significance in other areas of their life. If a man doesn't feel that his woman respects him, that she honors him, that she loves him at the deepest level, then slowly over time, he will start to find avenues where he can feel that. Unfortunately, sometimes it can be in the form of infidelity and so on. This is how they often get to this place if they're not experiencing that sense of respect and significance and so on. And finally, it's the stacking of emotions over a period of time. What happens is if a man feels disrespected or insignificant, then those things will stack up over time. If that becomes in the forefront of your mind, then what will happen is a part of our brain called the reticular activating system, which will literally start focusing on the very things that you're most frustrated about. If he's feeling that sense of insignificance and feeling disrespected, he's going to see it in things that may not actually even be happening, but he's perceiving every little micro behavior along the way as a demonstration that you don't respect him, you don't make him feel significant, you don't love him, and so on. Now, I'm not saying this is right or wrong. I'm just saying this is how men often get to this place. So then all of these things stack and stack and stack and stack to a point where it's like, you know what, I'm done. So the thing is, it's often a lot of these behaviors, a lot of these things that are going on, in his eyes, they seem real. In your eyes, you might be going, hang on, but I never did those things, or when I said that, I didn't mean it like that, and so on. So that's often why, for the man, if he's feeling like that, it's often an issue that lies within him that he needs to also process. That's not to say that either party having contributed to certain aspects of the marriage getting to its current point. It's often an internal perception that's going on. Now, what can you actually do now to be able to create some shifts within this marriage and get him to change his mind? Firstly, you need to open up some in-depth dialogue. It is really, really important. A lot of people say to me, oh yeah, we've had all these conversations and so on, but when we dive in deeper, you can see that either they haven't been having the conversations at the level that they need to, or they're not using the right language, the right tonality and so on, to be able to impact that person in the most beautiful way. You need to embrace your femininity. You need to embrace your feminine spirit. And one of the key ways to do that is to actually come from the heart, to really connect from the heart when you're actually communicating with them. So if you're holding that mindset of, you know, he's the one that's done this to me, he's always going off at me all the time, how dare he go off and do these things that I don't want him to do, and so on, all of your communication is going to be through the filter of anger or frustration or sadness or whatever it may be. But that's not going to allow you to have the greatest level of dialogue with him. What you need to do is come purely from a place of compassion and understanding that every single person who engages in any type of negative behavior is actually doing it for a positive benefit. Now, we might be sitting there going, hang on, are you serious? But of course, there is always a positive benefit. Otherwise, people won't do it. Now, whether that's benefiting someone else or benefiting themselves in a selfish way or a narcissistic way or whatever, there's still a benefit. So we need to have compassion and empathy for where they're at and how the issues have stacked up over a period of time. If you start to engage in dialogue where you're like, listen, honey, I understand obviously you want to have this divorce. Maybe you could tell me a little bit more about what's actually happening here. You know, I'm not here to attack you or have a go at you. What I would love to really understand is just how the marriage you feel has gotten to this current state. What do you think has happened? And I'm totally open to taking on any feedback around how I may have played a part in this process. It just, for me, I love you, I care for you, you mean the world to me, and I just want to know a little bit more about where your headspace is at the moment. Would it be okay if you just shared a little bit more about it? Now, just having a dialogue like that, let's say in the past you guys have always butted heads whenever you've conversed. Opening up a dialogue like this is going to make him more open to having conversations. And if you really get to a place where you say, you know what, this is actually sort of a new approach that I'm going to be taking moving forward, and you do this consistently over time, it can really make some big differences. Secondly, you need to go about reclaiming your own power and really releasing that, what we call victim consciousness. Now, I'm not saying that you're a victim per se. What I'm saying is we need to release that part of us that feels like that person has done this to me and that person's done this to me and how dare they and so on, and continue that narrative. Because the problem is if we hold on to that narrative, all it's going to do, it's going to corrupt our ability to be able to communicate in the right way with him. Everything that you do is going to be with a heightened sense of emotion. And when those emotions take over, they're effectively going to prevent you from being able to make the right decisions, from being in the right emotional state when you're having conversations with him. It's going to hold you back from doing the things that you need to be doing. You're not going to be practical because once again, the emotions are going to come in and take over and force you to do things that you shouldn't be doing or you don't want to do or that you need to be doing. So it's very important that you actually reclaim your own power and say, you know what I can control right now is me. And within me, I can control my thoughts, I can control my emotions. I know sometimes it feels like our thoughts can completely take over, and there definitely are instances where our wounds on the inside can completely run the show. And there needs to be a little bit of healing work that is done around that. If you want to learn how to create more healing on the inside, then just check out that description section below and you'll see a free webinar in there where you can learn more about that. But reclaiming your power is such an important part of the journey within you. When you recognize that you can actually do all of this, that you can create the shifts, you can have the powerful conversations, you can actually create those changes emotionally on the inside, and that you are an amazing person within you, then things can start to flow. And you know what? Our life then becomes a reflection of how we feel about ourselves. 3, he has gripes at the moment for a particular reason. Whether in your eyes it's right or wrong, the fact of the matter is he has gripes. So you've got to accept it. You've got to accept that that is where he's at. If I don't believe him, that's okay. I want to learn more about his world so I can get a different perspective on it. Even if you don't agree with it, it's his truth. And if it's his truth and there are certain things that he thinks you have done, then you have to own the fact that whatever it is that you may have done has impacted him. And so the quicker that you can accept it and own it, then he's going to see that you are actually not just resisting everything that he's saying, that you're actually listening and you're empathizing and you're really understanding what's going on the inside. I mean, if you think about it just in everyday life, if you were to say something to someone and tell them how you feel and then they shut you down, what does that do for you? It makes you feel like they just don't understand. It hurts. If he was to say something to you and you shut him down, he's going to be like, well, see, this is exactly the reason why I don't want to be in this marriage anymore. So very important to own your part on the journey. I know it's hard, I get it. I have nothing but compassion for you, but I know after working with hundreds and hundreds of clients all these years, that in order to really create transformation, you have to own your part in the journey. It is so, so important. And finally, make sure that you apply true forgiveness to your situation. Now, I get it. When your husband has gone off and cheated on you and so on, there's nothing more that you probably want than to seek some form of revenge or make sure that he, in no uncertain terms, knows how you feel and just drag him down. I get it. You have no idea how much I get it. But it takes me back to this poem that Mother Teresa had in, I think it was the hospital that she was at in India. And it starts off with a really powerful line. People are often unreasonable, illogical, and self-centered. Forgive them anyway. And it is such an important thing to do on this journey. We have to find forgiveness, because what happens is, if you don't forgive, your heart is going to be filled with anger or frustration or hurt on some level, and that's always going to be expressed in everything that you do. Now, either you get him back by making him feel guilty, but that doesn't address the actual issue, or he just continues to feel like, look, there's no point. So the way we truly shift is by forgiving. And that means stepping into that other person's shoes and understanding what's actually going on. Recognizing that we simply have to forgive, not just because of them, but more for us. So we're not filled with all of that anger that's going to lead to so many problems in terms of your communication and your decisions that you make and the actions that you take. And long term, no matter what happens, it means that he's going to continue to have that power over you by virtue of his actions. And that only leads to your suffering. Remember what Nelson Mandela said? Resentment is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. It only makes us suffer. And the same goes if we don't apply true forgiveness. So make sure you live in that forgiveness. It is such a powerful part. And I'm always a believer that, to find these places emotionally, to forgive, to really live in love and light and so on, it has a hugely powerful impact on the circumstances around us. And I notice that even with my amazing clients, people like Laurie, Sarah, Michelle, Rachel, Monique, all these beautiful women who are creating shifts in their marriages, what they did was shifted themselves first. By doing that, that then resulted in their husbands seeing those shifts and then realizing, wow, okay, there's some real changes going on. When they start to see that, that's when the magic really starts to happen. So if you have any questions at all, make sure you pop them below in the comment section. If you've liked this video, make sure you hit that like button below. If you want to get more videos like this every week, hit that subscribe button. And what I'd recommend you do is that if you are interested in trying to create some shifts and go deeper in terms of your own healing, then I'd recommend checking out this video above, which is going to help you to really create some of that emotional healing on the inside. I always find that that's the level that will really encourage you to create true transformation in the long run. So check that video out, and I will talk to you in the very next video.